They call it patriotism, but we call it what it is: pure, unfiltered bullshit. Welcome to Bluebird on Your Shoulder, where we cut through the MAGA madness with brutal honesty and zero apologies. No sugarcoating, no fake civility, just three guys, middle-aged and pissed off, breaking down the absurdity of right-wing delusion one episode at a time. If you think America deserves better than conspiracy theories and cult worship, you're in the right place. Liberal? Hell yes. Woke? Not a chance. We're here to roast the madness, expose the lies, and call out the grift. Because the only thing worse than MAGA's nonsense is pretending it makes sense. New episodes every week. Buckle up.
Almost there.
Bluebird on your shoulder. We're back for another fun and exciting week. We had some movement. Congress and the Senate both woke up in this past week, and they actually have joined the conversation finally. So not necessarily in a good way or a bad way, depending on what you look like it, but just the fact that there's a whole. You're reverbing. Yeah.
I shouldn't be anymore.
Okay, you're good. That there's a whole branch of the government that decided to come to the fucking party. So really exciting stuff. Some interesting polls came out and were argued about on social media. Congress and the Senate both passed separate bills that are somewhat related, but not related. But yet MAGA has put them together as one bill, and there's only one bill in the world for them. They don't understand that. Never mind, the Senate can do their thing, and we'll get to it. And then we've had our president showing what has been a debunked video of South African somebody saying kill the white farmer or something along those lines in South Africa. I don't understand it. I don't speak the language. I haven't got into it enough. I just know this man showed him a video that has been proven to not be real and used it as an excuse to yell at him.
I saw that he showed him a picture that has been confirmed that it was actually from the Congo and not South Africa.
Okay, so that also happened. But no, this man brought a TV into the Oval Office. Like it
and
was
showed it to the South African president?
Yeah, like it was cart day.
Oh my God.
At school. Like it wasn't on a cart, but that's what, like, he had them bring in a TV that they put up over there and then turned it on, and he showed him the video. And then they started screaming at each other.
Well, did you see that the South African president made fun of him for accepting that plane?
Yeah. He said, I don't have a plane to offer you.
Yeah.
And then Trump went into like, but if you did, I'd take it.
Yeah, if I did, I'd take it. Oh my God.
So that's what, like, it's almost like in his mind, like, okay, so every Oval Office meeting is exactly the same. Like the layout's the same. It's just like, it's almost like a seating chart. Like it's choreographed, right? It's choreographed,
right?
Produced, right? Like, not like, yes, of course, obviously anything coming out of the White House ever is produced to some level, right?
Sure.
But this is like set production. And like, I'm starting to realize that this man thinks this is like some reality show.
This is just The Apprentice.
This is him bringing his guests in. These aren't leaders of other countries. Nobody else actually matters. It's just a guest, and we're bringing them in. Yep. We're gonna just do whatever the fuck we want to do. And then the fucking psychos are going to be like, yeah, get it, America. Let's do it. And I've really, really come to the conclusion that Gen X MAGA is definitely the worst. They're the worst. And I remember like being what they've called us Xenials. They've given us a lot of words.
Xenials, yeah.
So like that bridge gap between the millennial generation and Gen X, right? Where we have a little bit of both worlds. I always remember like following them in school. They were always kind of fucking weird douchebags back then too. So the fact that they kind of grew up to be weird douchebags doesn't really shock me as much as I think it should. So, but then I was actually, it's correlated to an earlier conversation, which might be why it happened. For whatever reason, yesterday I decided I was just going to listen to The Wall.
Okay.
And then I realized that they grew up with this music, like, because they're born in this,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? With the
Yeah.
where Gen X is, like, this is the popular music of their time, and it's all
Hmm.
like, and then the movies like Star Wars and these things that they totally love. You know, I've seen them with Star Trek and Star Wars and Pink Floyd music and Zeppelin music, and you know what I'm saying? Like the Doors, and they under no circumstance realize that they've become the empire.
Mm.
Like you
Really
Yeah.
are
good
what the
comparison.
like it was in the flesh came on, and it's I got news for you. Pink isn't well. He stayed back at the hotel. They sent me in as a surrogate
Hmm.
man to find out where your friends really stand, and then he calls them out and puts them up against the wall because they're outsiders and they're not allowed. I'm literally listening to it, and I'm like, you grew up with this.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I know because I was exposed to it from you that you fell in love with it.
Hmm.
How did we get here? To where you can still hear that song and not realize that you're the surrogate fucking band.
Well, if you know Star Wars fandom,
Not like you.
you'll see right. Well, you'll find that most millennial fans are what we call originalists, and they don't think that any Star Wars that was made past the original trilogy is worth even talking about.
Your
So no
audio
matter what
sounds
comes
terrible.
out, does it? All right. Well,
Yeah, it's horrible. It sounds like you're in a trash can.
in a trash can, huh?
I was going to say an airplane cabin, but we can go with Oscar the Grouch. That's fine.
How's that? How's that? Is that better?
It is better. I think it's just a change. He isn't adjusting. So it's from the open mic grabbing the outside, and now your voice is very direct. So that's my theorem behind it, at least. But yeah, so your ear pods suck. That's possible too.
Yeah,
Um,
that's quite possible. Here,
but
let's.
no, yeah, I don't know how they've turned into this, but I know that you probably have things that are actually in the big beautiful bill. You named yourself Big Beautiful Bill today. What I want to state for the start of this is why the fuck does this shit all gotta have weird names?
For his
Like
ego.
I got pulled like 2, 3 days ago. I don't know. I might have been in the mountains still, but I got pulled. And it was local, and they were definitely pulling me on Trump's agenda, without a doubt. Right. And one of the questions was like, what would you name like this great bill? And Big Beautiful Bill was one of the fucking options. So they were
Yeah.
obviously talking about this bill. You're pulling this. It's an episode of TV.
For me, it's his ego, as everybody who knows anything about him knows. Just like when there was a bunch of, I think they were like second graders, that were talking to the press secretary, and they got to ask some questions. And one of them was, other than himself, who is the president's favorite president? And the press secretary started the response off with, well, I know for a fact it would be himself. Like everybody knows. So for me, like hearing that from his press secretary further validates that I think that he wants this bill to have a name so that in history it can be likened to the New Deal.
Right.
He wants to be in that class of, remember me, this is who I am, this is what I did.
Yep.
So ungodly bad. He wants to be in the good graces of the historians.
Well, he's going to be in history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but not the good graces.
I'm just saying, he's going to get that. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, right? He wants to be in, as big as the New Deal, and I know his aim's probably then to be bigger than Obamacare, but he didn't give Obamacare the name, y'all did,
right?
So that wasn't us. So,
yes.
Which I always love those videos where we see people saying, "Oh, I hate Obamacare, but I love the Affordable Care Act. Don't take away my health care.
Same thing.
That's so true. And most likely, like now that you really rang a bell there, bro. Because now I'm thinking about what was it? The TJCA? Is that what the tax cut was called? Like that's what I'm saying. I don't remember what the
From his
tax cut was
first?
called.
Oh yeah, from
Yeah,
his first one.
from his first term, because that's his big bill, right? That's the big
Yeah.
thing that happened.
I think
right?
I don't remember what it was called, but I know it was really part of it, the Jobs Act that he did. I thought.
Yeah,
Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
TCJA. See, I
Yeah.
wasn't wrong.
Okay, yeah.
But so that wasn't good enough, and he probably looked back the whole time. But I see you made me name it that shit.
Yep.
So that's crazy. But I haven't actually had the time because, like, it's a big bill come out of Congress. So I'm gonna put that out there. There's two bills. There's the one big beautiful bill, I think is what they call it, and that is from the House of Representatives, and it's fucking huge. And I haven't had time to read it, so I can't really necessarily trust everything I'm seeing. I am seeing that it slashes Medicaid often enough to believe that that's probably real. But I've seen a lot of other things like allowing silencers again. Like that's hidden in there. I've been able to verify these things. So I don't really want to go. Then there was a no tax on tips bill that was actually passed by the Senate.
Separately.
The Senate. It's a separate bill. It was pronounced unanimously. That's pretty dope. I haven't seen that, never. Last time I saw that
once we break that one apart, you'll see why.
Well, no, I get it, right? So, but that passed, and so now they have to go to but the MAGA people are like, yeah, see, we passed everything, and they think it's over.
Of course.
Like they don't even understand the processes.
Then it has to go to the Senate.
That A has to go to B, and B's has to go to A, and then they both have to be passed, and then they have to go to the president and be passed, and then it comes back to be certified,
right?
So that it could be overridden if he vetoed it. So I'm not sure you can go the other way. If he signs it, you can't then veto it. Which why would you do that? That wouldn't make sense. So
no, if he signs it, it's law.
Yeah, well, I was running through my head like, is there a verse to that? And I'm like, wait, that wouldn't make sense because you would pass the fucking bill. But yeah, so now those bills have to go there, and I don't think they realize there's a thing, and like the congressional bill's going to have a hell of a fight in the Senate. So because there's holdouts there was, and then the weird thing about the Democrats is like, I don't think this bill passes, but we've already had two Republican or Democratic congressmen die in office.
Yeah,
since the term started.
But I don't know that either one of them will have a special election. I think both of them have their vice that will step in.
Well, fair, but they're not. They're currently too short.
Right.
So it wouldn't have passed because Massey and there was one other Republican were like, no.
Yeah.
So, and Massey is like, was definitely Team MAGA in his early, like me noticing him, but he's kind of moved. I'm wondering if he's going to take a run. So at being, I think he might realize the writing on the wall that there's going to be huge pushback in the midterms. That's what all the trend says.
Yeah.
And then there could be, that's going to maybe go a little too far, probably. And then some other crazy shit's going to start happening. And then he might be expecting that bounce back to the dead center. For the election in 28. So, but yeah, the no tax on tips part, it has a sunset clause that expires in 28. It doesn't alleviate tax on the front side.
Right.
It alleviates tax on the back side. So basically, you get it.
Basically, gives you a credit, and that's kind of what my point was if you look at the people that are tipped, most of them don't get high enough for that to make really any difference to them. Most of that credit is going towards, where they don't get taxed anyways. So, we would when we were bartending, our paycheck basically paid our taxes, and then at the end of the year, we didn't owe anything. So
Right.
so if you look at kind of the way that that works and who works in the tipping industry and what their average wage is, most of
Right.
them aren't even going to get to take advantage of that tax cut.
I
Well,
don't know.
of
I
course
can't.
not. And it's written that way on purpose
Right.
because it's just one of those where, look, we did this for you,
Yep.
for the working class. What has any other president done? And those people aren't going to take the time to look into it to realize that he didn't do shit for them.
Right. Exactly. It was something for them to pacify the poor,
Fluff.
their poor base, and give them something to brag about going into the midterm next year.
Yep. It's fluff.
Yep.
It's always some kind of weird shit with these people.
Yep.
Because governance is a foreign fucking reality to them.
Well,
And
and I would like to preface that with any bill, if you actually take the time to look at it, there's just as much bad as there is good in every bill that's written into law.
Usually, yeah.
It's
I mean,
never just the
any of the
big
ones that are
topics.
big, I would agree with that to the extent that any of them that are big or that are controversial that actually pass. Yeah, I'd agree with that. There are some bills that most of the general public don't hear about. A lot of veterans-based bills and funding and stuff like that goes through where it's got, a bipartisan agreement. They don't really want to broadcast that they're doing anything bipartisan anymore. But when you actually look at it, they do a couple things each year
Yeah.
that, no, like nobody with common sense would be against. So,
Right.
so there is some of that has to be taken into account.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
I think I would be really for like. I think a big part of leaving the Constitution amendable, which, yes, MAGA, that means to change, um, is let's change how we write laws. And I think everyone is across the board consensus is good with age limits and term limits
Mm-hmm.
for everybody. So I'm good with the SCOTUS saying a lifetime appointment. I'm okay with that.
As long as they can
Hey, listen,
stay
they
independent.
that's what they have though. That's what we were just talking about,
Right.
right? Like someone when they get in that chair and it's a lifetime appointment and then they ball.
Right.
And they understand that, Lady Justice is blind, right? Like um so far that seems to work and has worked historically. So I'm good for that. The rest have not worked.
Yeah.
So much so that I mean, a lot of people don't realize that president term limits is a fairly new thing.
Yeah.
So like people are like, oh, it's always been that way. No, it wasn't actually the law. It
Right.
was a George was like, I didn't even want to do this shit in the first place. 8 years
Yeah.
is enough. I'm out. And then
So
everybody after him just kind of followed suit. Right? Like, so, but I think making a law that there are term limits and making a law that laws can only be one topic.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to see bills that are only able to span one law at a time,
One
you know?
topic.
Yep.
So,
Um,
not 87. Like, if you actually get to reading this bill, which I'm not, I'm going to make fucking AI do it for me. And I'm going to let it prompt me. We'll have a full conversation about it, right? Like, well, I'll get to the nitty gritty, but
right.
there's going to be some random road in fucking Kiwa that's getting a bridge and it's in the fucking budget bill. Why
Yeah.
is that there? The
Yep.
the road to nowhere in Alaska, that was in a whole bunch of bills. Like
Yep.
right.
what
That's that pork that everybody can agree shouldn't belong in bills. And because it's that one person that wants to hold their vote in order to, get that put in so that they can be pacified. So they make an allowance for that in each bill that they're trying to bring forward that is big or controversial like that. And that's where we've gotten away from the American public knowing where their money is being spent because it's stuffed into stuff like that.
I think this poses like here's an interesting. So all right, say I was the senator from Oklahoma. I don't know why I picked there, but I did. Red state humanly possible, because that's definitely where I'd be a senator from. Because so I'm a senator from Oklahoma, and we have single bill issues, right? Single issue bills, and we're dealing with like a bill like this, federal budget or this or that, right? That all makes sense. But
Yeah.
if we're dealing with a bill where like Oklahoma is getting a stadium or whatever, I can just put something in. Farm subsidies.
Yeah.
Right? Oklahoma specifically needs farm subsidies.
Yeah.
Then I can't get the votes, like
to grow mangoes.
Right. So, and I can't get the votes, but then, if I'll give him my vote for his road to nowhere and her my vote to grow mangoes, and right, like all of this together, like we end up with a lot of bills, and then the general public weighs in. So this is where my question. Ultimately, my job is to the people of Oklahoma and only to the people of Oklahoma. Even though it's a federal position, my job isn't to the whole.
Right.
Right.
That seems to be more of a House of Representatives thing, but theirs isn't really to the whole either. They're even more low.
Yeah.
And
no,
so
theirs is only to their district.
Right. So how does one issue bill work? Do you see what I'm saying? What I'm getting?
So
the reason that they get so big now is you're right. That's how they get the votes for it.
Right. So that's where I've in my mind you would have to sit down and you would have to negotiate for a pool of money that each representative could secure for their own needs. So, by voting on a body of money that gets funded into that type of thing, then each representative can submit their own spending bill that is basically passed through in a bulk, maybe once or twice a year. And I think that would be something that, each person would submit their spend and request for money from the Fed, and then that would all go through in one bill. But it would be for each district, each state, and I think that would be a good way to do it.
You talk about
not a bad idea at all.
No, it's not spreadsheet style, right? Like fiduciary bottom up budget.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense. Like those are the questions, right? And these are the questions that we can all agree on it, but then we never try to solve the problems.
Well, that's because getting them to vote against their own interests is very hard, especially if you're trying to do it for the entirety. If you're trying to do it in your own state, in your own area, that you could, get some stuff done, but to do it, top down, that's really hard to do when they use those tools in order to get the bullshit that they want passed. Yeah. So
that money in their own pockets. Yeah. Yep. No, 100%. The corruption is real, right? All people are corrupt. Human beings are corrupt. Therefore, all government's going to be corrupt. That's just part of the game.
Until they take the lobbyist money out of it, that's just how it's going to be. It's been like that for decades.
And we didn't only not take it out of it. We decided to let companies be people.
Yeah.
So, well, we didn't. We just watched them do it and didn't do shit about it. But it's fine. It's fine. Listen, they couldn't. I will tell you this: the only good thing about today's climate politically, because mostly it's not good, but the only good thing is a bill like that would have never fucking gotten through today, because because everyone would know about it and everyone would have a stance on it, and everyone would. That is the one thing that, with the amount of participation in politics now, if you want to call it politics still, I don't know. I think it's mudslinging in a high school classroom, but it is increased and more people are at least able to be lied to about what they believe. So that's definitely happened, and I think that's a positive. But yeah, I just think that would be an opportunity for us, right? Like, I don't know about this bill because I don't want to read 300 pages of nonsense. Right. That are obviously in there, but I just don't want to read them. Now, if it was 150 pages of what you're talking about, that'd probably be worth my time.
Right.
Yeah.
to know that, you know what, okay, cool, I'm buying a strawberry farm in, Alabama, and there's going to be trees planted in Oregon, and that's like, oh,
You
okay.
know, you know
Which
what
I mean,
you know what I would like to see? I would like to see with, how the Affordable Care Act, where now whenever you receive a service at a hospital or something like that, they're supposed to provide for you a quote up front.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
happened.
So what I would like to see is, with, in addition to that, where we get a spreadsheet style expenditure request, once or twice a year by representatives in each area, to have a breakdown of how much that will cost each taxpayer. Because if they want to build a bridge to nowhere and it only costs me 50 cents a year, fuck it. Go for it.
I
It'll
think
avoid
I
some people.
I think
So
ultimately, go ahead.
so that way
No,
we're able
15.
to see where our taxes are going for how much it's costing. Like when they're talking about cutting NPR and Voice of America, you know how much that costs us each year? Like 20 cents each person, 20
Yeah, but
cents.
they
But
won't
that's
stroke them
something
off.
that they want to cut.
Yeah, because they won't stroke them off. We don't have to make believe that that's about money.
Well, that's what Doge is trying to make it sound like.
Fuck
Is it's about
Doge.
money.
He did come out this week, and at least I saw the interview. I don't know when it actually happened. And said he would probably never get involved in politics again and stop spending money in politics.
Oh yeah, but people are still holding him accountable. They're not letting him off the hook that
Ain't
easy.
nobody gonna let that dude off the hook, dude. He destroyed his brand.
Yep.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but he destroyed his brand. Um, yeah, no, I get behind that. I'd be okay with that. Like, no, but I also think like it would make sense for that to be done by population,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
California's obviously going to get more federal money, right?
Sure,
Or
sure.
maybe they don't need as much because that's where all the I can't do the bean counter stuff. That's for
Yeah.
bean counters. That's not for me. That's for the OMEV, right? Or whatever they call that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna
Whoa.
do it one for one, when it comes to, he's gonna do the whole podcast in the car thing.
I kind of
Um,
like
Well,
this.
my phone was about to die, so I didn't want to go in the house. Kids are playing; it's loud. So
So you put it on the charger in the car?
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
I would turn my car off.
That's
Has better
highbrow.
acoustics anyways, from what I hear. Anyway,
Say what?
it has better acoustics from what I hear anyways.
Not for him. No.
So the one problem with that is, if you're just gonna do by population, one for one, then you might as well just send that right back to the state for them to do whatever the fuck they want with.
It's also true. All
Yep.
right. So in the one big most beautiful, hugest, most glorious orange spray tan bill ever that the tangerine toddler is completely fucking excited about. Um, what is the cut to Medicaid? Like, what is the? You're the number. I know you have numbers. I know you do.
I believe it was it 13.7 million people and 1.3 billion dollars.
So like, and that's Medicaid and Medicare,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Correct.
which are different programs, and people don't realize those are different. One is
Yeah.
more aimed towards the retired population,
Yes.
and the other is more aimed to the underprivileged population.
Yeah.
Or
Uh,
disabled. Yep.
so yeah, also, well, I think being disabled more or less makes you underprivileged,
Well, yes,
not
but
less than underprivileged. So listen, it's not their fault, but it would to not be able to walk. It probably isn't cool. That's all I'm saying. So you know what I'm saying. So I feel for them. Like,
well,
yes, you're
yeah,
underprivileged. That's
but
bullshit.
they're not underprivileged. They have a legit disability.
Uh,
Where underprivileged have the lack of option. You
yeah,
know.
this is why
So,
liberals don't like me, bro. It's fine. So I sit in the middle real comfortably. So they don't no, so like that's a lot of people, right? And then I think the elder vote was definitely um Democratic leaning. I'm the 65 plus vote this year. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%. It's been a long time since I looked at the election numbers, but I'm pretty sure that it's one category we actually did win. Um, But I find it interesting that with those cuts, that there's a lot of young white males who voted for Trump whose mothers raised them on the benefits as single mothers.
Yep.
Well,
And you
I can
wouldn't
tell you
have
that
the
a certain friend of ours whose sister raised her kids as a single mother, whose son is an absolute shit because he was spoiled the entire time. So, I've been seeing quite a bit about this where, they're like, how could, boys raised by their single mothers be so willing to, do um um willing to be like this and take away the benefits that help their moms be able to raise them. And unfortunately a lot of them have been either exposed to the are you guys still there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm here.
here.
All right. Right, you just disappeared for a minute.
I do that
So
sometimes.
right. So what they're seeing is that they don't they think that they're better than what their mom's situation was, so they don't want to contribute to the next generation of underprivileged mothers who have to raise their kids alone.
Do
So
do they actually understand though? Like, do you think they fundamentally fully understand, or do you think they were sheltered from the reality of how hard it really was?
I do. I think that, a lot of mothers make it sound like they have it really rough, but they shelter their kids from that understanding by giving them, decent schools through, the ability to voucher and things like that, the ability to get enough child support to buy their kids Air Force Ones and designer clothes so that they don't feel like they're poor when they really are. So they go through this where they live outside of the means of their parent or even parents, and then they go into the world and are surrounded by other people that are of similar mindset or place. You know, depending on the high school that then they end up in, and depending on the college that they end up in, if they go into the military right afterwards. And a lot of those programs are all, kind of meant for the affluent white boys. And so when they're exposed to that, they adopt those values.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that a bunch of people I know grew up on free lunch. And there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. I
No,
sit on the
absolutely
side
not.
where I feel like we should provide that, right?
Yeah.
Like that is where our money should go, in my opinion, right? Are now wanting to support someone who's going to take free lunch away. And I'm like, do they realize they wouldn't be? And you're right. To me, they don't.
No.
They become crypto bros. So it's a weird reality for me. Then there's
I do like one. Speaking of like the underprivileged and all that, though, I do like one of the cuts that they did to SNAP, uh, which for those who don't know is like the program that provides food stamps. Is they did a cut to where it's basically limiting what you're able to purchase now.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Took away soda and stuff like that in certain states.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because that is let's be honest, soda and stuff like that, like alcohol, is not a necessity, should not be purchased with government funds, taxpayers' funds, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You should be buying, your necessities, your bread, your eggs, your meats, your cheeses, the nutritious things, not $40 in fucking Pepsi.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we know some of my ex family that, all she's raised her kid on is chicken nuggets, frozen pizzas, and soda. And he's,
I live on chicken nuggets, frozen pizzas, and well, not soda, coffee, but still, leave me alone.
you want to stand up?
Nope. No,
So
Yeah,
so I'm gonna
but
say
you're buying that with your
I
own money. You're not buying that with Snap. That's the
no
point.
100%, 100%. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real. I don't agree. I don't like. So that's where I'm gonna. I agree that that's where I want my money to go. also agree that the government can't tell you what the fuck you can use it on. Like, and not using it on alcohol, okay, that makes sense, right? It's not in any way a food. You know what I'm saying?
Neither
There's
is
zero
soda. It's just
nutritional
sugar
value to
water.
Pepsi. What's the difference?
Yeah, but culturally, it is considered a part of the meal, right? Come on, dude. We all sold
And ice is
there was
considered
never
a
there was
food
never
item,
10
which is
watt
why
there was
bars
never
can be open on Sunday.
yeah, there's still never 10 waters on a table. That's all I'm saying. That's why I want to know why the non-bev sales are so low in the stores. So because I've never walked in and seen a fucking restaurant full of waters, but your ticket sales say that's what happens.
Right.
So
Well, now
anyway,
now
like
they
I
have a
just don't
place where they
think
can get a deduction for that tax. So
and it is state by state. That so far, like, so you saying they added that into the federal where like that'll be a mandate
I
that
didn't
if
see it
you
in
accept
federal,
federal
but
funds, I know this, I know our state did that.
no,
I say I
and
don't
some
know
others
if
have just recently.
yeah. I don't
Okay,
know if it
yeah,
was in the federal bill, but I do know
okay.
it was at least in
Yeah,
yes
I was
in
just trying to
Indiana.
clarify that part, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
maybe it
Yeah.
was. Like I said, I don't know much about it to come on, and it didn't pass till 1 o'clock this morning, and I didn't really think it was gonna pass, so I'm a little behind the eight ball on it. But yeah, so no, I personally don't agree. I think that's none of your business. Um, and like I'm just not one where the government I think they can give you some don't do's or shouldn't do's, and they should give you some support that comes from your fellow people because that's at the end of the day. It's not they spin this weird thing where the United States shouldn't do this. Well, it's not the United States. It's the people of the United
Right,
States
right.
that do this. And I think they should. I think the people of should help the people of. That's just a thing. But they spin it to where it's the country helping.
Right.
No, you are the country, stupid.
Yeah.
So I just think that we don't really have the right to tell her she can't get Pepsi. Now, yeah, if people abuse that and there's like 800 Pepsis, and maybe if you told me that that was to avoid fraud, because I know that that's rampant,
The
right?
two to
Like,
one ratio on food
yeah,
stamps.
the 2-to-1 food stamp, right? We
50
all know,
cents on the
right?
dollar.
Yeah, 50 cents on the dollar, right? We all know the deal, bro. We all know the deal. I give you 100 for 200 in food stamps, right? And I can buy all the stuff. Now, so if you told me it was to try to combat that kind of fraud, where you wouldn't want to buy a food stamp if you couldn't get, this, but it's not going to stop them
Nutritious
from
food.
getting. It's not going to stop them from buying king crab legs.
True.
So why would the fuck would I stop you from getting a Pepsi? I can't afford no. I mean, I can't. I mean, I could, but I shouldn't buy king crab legs if they're that expensive. They're delicious though.
Now,
But
what you
Yes.
could, what about putting in like a program, like a nutrition program where anybody that receives those benefits has to attend
so
at least
like,
2 classes
oh, I
about
thought you were gonna
nutrition and
put it
things?
to like
Almost like
WIC.
to get back to work for the unemployment, you have to do
Yeah.
certain things to make. I mean, I'm not against that whatsoever. I mean, I
I
think anything that is going to benefit someone to improve their life to get them off of living off of the government
Right.
is a good thing.
yeah, I could support that for sure. And I was thinking you were gonna go kind of the WIC way, like for
No,
babies, where
that's
you
that's
have to
more
buy X amount of dairies and you have to
right.
buy X amount of grains and you have to buy, which that is a nutrition thing, right? And it's, I
Right.
thought you were going that, and I'd actually be okay with that if you give them like X amount of other credits where they can buy a
Right.
Pepsi. And listen, dude, sometimes people want fucking, beef
Well, and
jerky.
they should.
Like,
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to ingest, some free sugars to, make them feel better about their situation. But I think that if we could focus on improvement, like Josh said, by making it so that they're improving their lives and lifting themselves up out of the need for that safety net, that's the goal. And honestly, I always end up going back to it. Education has the highest ROI in spending. When we spend money on education, we save money and we get more taxes.
no
So,
fucking way.
yeah.
But they won't vote for him. So why would he want to do that?
Yeah.
So no, it's really the Bluebird got an interesting one today because I was talking about the bill.
Mhm.
And dude posted A and MAGA posted B, and I told Maga, the Maga was like, well, where is it? And I simply posted, like, the bill's readily available for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to come here and contest, and da 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 da, why are you asking for the proof from them? Like, it's available for you to read. Go read it, take a stance on it, and don't just believe what somebody on Twitter told you.
Yeah.
Like, I was not going to take a side because, like I said, I don't know if the original poster's telling the truth here. Are getting twisted fact from some other fucking person on social
Right.
media. But I put that, and he came, like, somebody else commented, and he commented under there about low information voter. And you can't make this shit up. You called me a low information voter when you were unwilling to go be an informed voter.
Right.
In the same conversation, you called me the fucking irony. You
Yeah.
can't make this shit up. It's like a sweat lodge of fuckery. Like, and then all I commented back was, you really typed this out, read it, and was like, yeah, that makes rational,
Yeah,
logical
right.
fucking sense, and posted
But
it. Like,
let's be honest. Even if he did go do the research, they're just going to come back with, like you said on a post of mine earlier, is to someone that we know, is that they're just going to say it's liberal and it's not true because it's not flattering to their king.
Right.
you're not
So
wrong.
what
Well,
does it matter
that's
what research we do for them? I'm not doing that anymore.
I
They can
mean,
go
I
look it up
don't
themselves.
100%. I try to educate or make fun of at equal rates for the okay, not
Yeah.
currently, just make fun of definitely at a higher rate. If I know you, I'll try to educate. If I know the person's whose page I'm on, I'll try to stay cordial. That doesn't always happen, but I'll try. But then there's that reality where, like, I don't understand where the bridge will go too far. So I have spent a couple weeks now getting my hands around this situation so I could eloquently, maybe not eloquently because there's nothing eloquent about it, um, intelligently speak on the topic. So there's a 30-year-old woman named Adriana Smith in Georgia who is currently, I think, will be up to like 11 or 12 weeks pregnant now, who is brain dead and clinically deceased, who is on an incubator and being kept alive, based on Georgia's abortion law, which is very, very strict. One of the, if I remember correctly, the second strictest in the nation behind Oklahoma
Right.
or behind Texas, one of the two. But super restrictive, right? Where the hospital would get in trouble if they did this. Now, that is reducing this woman to an incubation machine. Like, you are incubating a baby, and that is the whole of her life, and that is the whole of her worth. And this is all the things you said wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
This is all the thing where, because it's a life, and I'll walk that road with you. Let's say it is. Because it's a life, we can do this to another life. Because it was once a life. Adriana was a person. She had people that loved her. She was a nurse herself. She was 30 years old. She has family. And they don't get to bury their daughter who they know is dead. And they're not with it. Like, they're not pro doing this. And the hospital's like, it doesn't matter whether you are or aren't, we don't have a choice. Now, they're getting billed for the services, though. Like, I mean, imagine that. Capitalism, somebody's got to pay, right? So we're going to force you to become an incubator, but it's like you've reduced this once bright person with a life who had some brain clots, some blood clots in her brain. That's how she passed. Blood clots in the brain. Very unfortunate. Young, not some terminal, right? And now she's a machine, like an iron lung, right? Like, and then I think that brings up a lot of other questions. Now, I will say, recently, I couldn't find out exactly when, but very recently, Georgia AG actually did come out and say, no, you could take her off. It wouldn't violate the law. So there has been some clarification, but the hospital is still hesitant to do it because of this other Georgia law. So and given the climate, they're a little hesitant. I don't blame them for that. In this climate, I'd be hesitant. Right. I mean, I'd be hesitant too.
Well, and especially if the husband is, fighting to try to have his baby,
No, I'm pretty sure the family's not all against this happening.
Oh, even the husband.
Yes, even though it is happening, because it is happening, they hope that the baby comes out okay, so it's worth it.
Right.
Is kind of their standpoint, but I don't think anyone in the family is pro this.
Huh.
I think everybody in the family is this is royally fucked up. And I think that there's no other way around this being royally fucked up. I think if we're going to go that route, then go ahead.
They have to wait how many more months before they can have the closure and put her to rest, and then that's with the hope of, and the uncertainty, because it's just a hope at this point, of that the baby's okay.
Other than a fetal heartbeat, right? So we're getting to where there'd be some development. I think that brings up a really interesting thing.
How far along was she again?
She was 9 when I found the story. So by now I think we're at 11, or because I've known about this for about 2 weeks and been watching. It started February 25th, I do believe, is when she passed.
So essentially the fetus is a parasite at this point, because parasite has to have a host to survive. Right. It's not a viable life.
12, 13,
you go piss some 14, people off with that
maybe
one,
14.
Hey,
yeah, I mean, we're not even halfway through the pregnancy, and they expect the fetus is going to make it to term.
They do actually think that, because they're obviously feeding it, But so that's what it brings up, right? So obviously I'm it's religious. I guess you could go that far. I don't necessarily go to church, but I do believe in God. I'm a religious left blue voter. How there's so many spiritual and ethical questions along with the flat out, what I believe is criminality of the behavior. How is a baby that is being manufactured, because that's what it is at this point.
Yes.
So we're creating a soul in a soulless body, because the person is gone. So by all beliefs on the religious right, at bare minimum, her soul is with God, Jesus. It's gone.
Right.
So you're a soulless body incubating a human child. I think there's a lot of
ethical questions involved.
Very dark religious realities to that, right? Some philosophical realities that we're really doing this. And obviously there's no research on that, but that's where my head goes to it.
I mean, the crazy thing about that is, I mean, obviously she's in a hospital, and all ethics aside, they have to do the legal things. And one of the greatest quotes my business ethics professor told us the very first night, it was a night class, was, in this class you will find what is ethical is not always legal, and likewise what is legal is not always ethical.
100%. I mean, I preach that to the young. Well, fuck yeah, I've lived that. But I preach it to the young ones. If you do the wrong thing for the right reason, I'll never be mad.
Right.
You'll never face punishment for me for doing the wrong thing for the right reason. Never.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to be the guy who will do the wrong things.
Yep.
So, and I couldn't be mad at somebody for doing that anyway. I'd be the biggest hypocrite on planet Earth. I don't care how many times I went to the magic box.
Some would say some would say that that's what Trump is doing.
That might be happening. Well, like I said, I've told you guys for how many years.
He's doing the work of God, don't you know?
I'm never the guy that you should be making president. I've openly told you that that's not going to work out. Reason I hate him so much is, yes, I see a lot of 16-year-old me in him. Like I understand that psychosis. 20 some odd years of therapy later, and we've gone somewhere. That motherfucker ain't much no therapy.
Yeah,
So
isn't that something that all three of us and several other people are very critical of him and other presidents for that matter? None of us want that job.
no, because we're not qualified and we know it, and we're not ethically. But yeah, going back to
Oh, we're
Adriana though.
qualified now.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Going back to Adriana, though, the senator who actually wrote the law was like Ed Setzler. He's like, yeah, the hospital's doing the right thing. This is what the law is intended for. You fucking cuck. Dude, what the fuck, man? Like, I don't understand in any way, shape, or form how this is the right thing to do. Like, I can't find a fucking avenue where this is the right thing to do, because even going the religious avenue, which I tried to do, I came to that conclusion that I'm having a body without a soul develop a body. That's something's going to go wrong there. That's not as intended. That was not intended. There is no way.
We've been looking at incubating, fetuses for quite a while now. So this is actually not a horrible test for science. I know that we've had situations where mothers that are brain dead with children that are close to term have been kept alive so that they could bring their children to term, and it was with the support of the family. So I mean, there are case studies out there like that. From a scientific point of view, this is an avenue for the legality of growing a child in an incubator later down the road. Um, the questions I
I don't
have
want
is,
that either.
where was she at when, or like how did she go brain dead? Like, did they try to bring her back? Did they not find the clots until, after she was gone? All of
Yeah,
that
there
on the
it gets
baby.
lost in the sauce, right? But there was definitely, like, she didn't get that. She had to go multiple times. People wouldn't believe her. And that's, I mean, people are gonna, the fucking right can't handle this truth. That
Right.
happens a lot, especially with African American women,
Mm.
who Adriana Smith is an African American woman.
Mhm.
In which in a way I makes me hate the left, because I probably wouldn't have heard about this if she wasn't. But they use that card too, and that's
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I will agree with MAGA. Yeah, the fucking DNC is pathetic. Agreed. So I just don't. I don't know how anyone thinks this is okay, and how it would be okay if it was your person.
Yeah.
Like, if it was your person in any way, shape, or form, how in the fuck could you be okay with this? Like, would I've
If
met a
I
few I've met a few women who this is what they would want.
Right. That's what I was going to go with.
And if that be the case, I respect it.
Yeah.
If she would have put something in, should something happen to me, put me on life support till my baby's born, I'd
Right.
have no words, because you
Yeah.
made that choice. And that's
Right.
that's what it boils down to. I don't care whether it's life or not. I care
Right.
that the living person has the right to choose.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I care that the living person has the right to choose. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to choose what I would choose.
Right.
You don't have to choose what I would want you to choose. I might try to persuade you to choose what I would want you to choose, but
I
I
would
will
even
support your right to choose.
I will give you, yeah, I will support your right to choose, even if I disagree with it, because I believe in that right more than I believe in my opinion.
Right. And to go to this point where we've really literally reduced somebody who, of course, like, after everyone passes away, they're the greatest thing ever, and neither here nor there, but we've reduced a living, breathing person to essentially, in Ireland, a machine.
Yep. An
And
incubator.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's an incubator, right? Like, reduced to incubate, right? Like, I didn't pick the name by chance, because I knew I was going to talk about this, because it's blown my mind for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's been so serious in my head that I didn't want to bring it up before, because I didn't know enough about it. I knew what it was, and I knew it was happening, and I knew it was real. And I was like, this is fucked up.
Right.
So, but then I did my research. I had AI do deep research for me. Like, it brought up a lot of comparables that have happened
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years. And then the judge always overrules it. But now we're in a world because all of those instances happened pre Dobbs.
Yep.
So now that we've had Dobbs, Roe v. Wade is gone, and this young woman and her family have no right
Control.
because the state decided, because the
Right.
state should get to decide that. So if they want slaves, we're going to let them do that too.
Right.
And I know that people hate that argument, but that's why maybe we didn't let the states do so much of what the fuck they wanted to anymore. Maybe that's why we kind of changed our direction a little bit, because we did leave it to the states for a vast majority of the beginning. And that's
And
what
a
the
bunch
fuck
of
we
them
came up with.
didn't
And
want
that's what the
to.
fuck we came up with. Like, we let states do whatever they want. And it's like giving crazy Uncle Joe the fucking keys to the car. You just don't do it. All right. Because then you're going to do some shit like own people.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing again. The state of Georgia owns this woman,
Yeah.
and has decided for her and her family what her reality will be. It's ownership.
Yep.
We're not supposed to do that. And I don't know how many times throughout history it has to be proven in this country. History in this country. This will not go well in the long term. And it will
Yeah.
create very horrible situations with the general public,
Yep.
because most people aren't fucked in the head.
Well, and
Maybe
most people don't
maybe
understand that body autonomy is integral to, you know, an individual having their own freedom. If they don't have body autonomy, then we don't have freedom, because at any point in time, the state could decide that you need to give up your kidney so this young child doesn't die. You know, you need to give up a part of your liver. It'll grow back. Don't worry about it. But you're going to have to give it up because this child might die. You know, that's exactly what this is about, is going into a situation where the state can dictate what your body is to society.
Yeah, ownership. Ownership. What were you
Exactly.
going to say on why people are fucked? Maybe that's not what you were going to say. You started to talk.
He did.
Yeah, the one in the dark there.
Yeah, now he looks like he's asleep.
Yeah. So I said people are fucked and they own people, and you were about to speak. Did you forget?
me.
Yeah, you motherfucker.
I wasn't about to say anything. I was wondering why every time Pedro talks here in the last half hour, it's freezing and being all pixelated.
Probably because you have bad service right now because of where you have your phone laying.
I have full
Uh,
bars.
yeah. Oh well, I don't know, bro. I'm just telling you. Maybe
Yeah, I
you're
checked
still
that one first.
maybe you're still connected to the house Wi-Fi, and it's a little. It gets. I don't know. We're not going into a damn tech class, but like, I just think it's wrong, and that's why. And that's what I've equated it to, and I've
Oh,
equated it to that not because she's black.
I do
And I need
remember what I was
everyone.
going to say.
Okay, let's go. I'm ready.
All right. Is she being like, are there guards on? Because I'm wondering, like, if her family's going to visit her, why don't they just pull the plug and be like, I don't know what happened.
Because you're going to go to prison for it, bro. In
I don't know
Georgia,
what
and
happened.
everybody knows. I
Good luck
understand that.
proving it.
That's probably not going to work in that room, dude. Like, I get it, but
Yeah.
that's probably not going to work in that room. But yeah, that's what I really came down to, is I equate it to ownership, and not because she's black. This is slavery. This is
Yeah.
female slavery. It's enslaving a woman's body. It's completely and entirely fucked up. Dude, the Handmaid's Tale is definitely not supposed to be a how-to guide, and it seems like it is absolutely becoming a fucking how-to guide.
Well, not becoming. I mean, it was leaning that way his first term. People were making that comparison of we ain't far off.
That's how we got to the Supreme Court who did Dobbs. So we won't get into that either. But then we will get into real quick to tie it up here. It's a little we had a judge come out where we flew some people to the South Sudan. Some Vietnamese and Koreans, I do believe.
Yeah, they were all
Asian illegal immigrants to the South Sudan.
Yep.
Something about that don't feel right to me.
Right.
But I guess a federal judge told them they couldn't do that. And then they did it anyway. And now the federal judge has openly told them, like, you either bring them back or I will have you arrested. So I'm interested to see how this is going to play out, because we're getting to a boiling point here. However, I also want to point out that a poll just came out. It was a YouGov. It was like 1,107 respondents, I do believe. And there was a question in the poll. It was obviously like Trump, support type poll, right? Across the board, policy, cabinet members. But one of the questions was, do you support habeas corpus? And then define in layman's terms what habeas corpus is,
That's important.
right?
Yep.
Yes, no, it did, because I went there like, did we actually, like, okay, fair point. We asked a loaded question. No, that is the question. Do you approve or disapprove, support of or not support habeas corpus? Habeas corpus is, blah 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 blah, right? And 46% of Republicans said they approved it.
Approve of suspension?
No, approve of it, which means 54% didn't say they approve of it. Now there was only 26% said they disapprove of it. So pretty much saying they're for suspension of it, right? The numbers are being skewed by some of the left talking heads, and I hate when they do this, but I know how they're doing it because I've actually looked at the numbers now. But those are the real numbers. 46% said they approve of it, which 54% don't. Do you want to be able to just get arrested on the street and be put in a fucking local jail and never get out?
No, but they're white, so they don't think that it'll happen to them.
But the possibility will exist.
Not as long as they stay in power.
They've never went to jail. That's
didn't even know what it was, anyways.
No, that's also true. Well, that was so like 40. It was 46 approved, 26 disapproved. The rest were unsure. So I think some of those unsure's were like, yeah, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, actually. So I'm not going to answer. At least they didn't answer. But the fact that 26 outright, and that's the interesting part, because I've always felt like it's about 30% that make up hardcore men.
Yeah.
I've always felt like it's about 30% of the population as a whole, and they're actually a vast minority.
The other thing that you have to look at is the actual wording of the question, because a lot of those questions are loaded or built to get the answer that they want. So you gotta look at the question and break it down, word by word, to make sure that it's not something that would lead people into the answer that they want.
It's super fair question. It was even keel. It was definitely neutral. It would be linguist neutral. It was literally, do you approve or disapprove? And then an explanation in layman's terms of what it was. And it was one sentence. So like, it wasn't misleading. Yeah. It wasn't leading at all. It wasn't like, because I see polling, I see what they do. Right. But it was, it was a YouGov, and it was a D2 poll. So Democrat +2, which they're like, well, you just asked only a few Republicans. No, only 2 more Democrats than Republicans. And then there was the independents. Now the independents overwhelmingly approved it, but not as much as they should have. It's like 68%. Then we get to 96% of Democrats approved of it. How did we become the brouhaha? Let's go, woo, Kyle Americans. When the fuck did this happen?
Yeah. I thought we were the fuck the police Americans.
Yeah, like the anti-war, pure peach, hippie, stoner Americans who didn't you've really put us in a position where we're the rah woo-ah, I have American flag underwear on my boat Americans. But this is where we are. This is where do you?
I think J6 did a lot to that. I think that when they show their true colors about what they really think about police officers during J6, I think that's when Democrats realized that they could get away with, supporting the police, and as long as, they're agreeing to the things that, Trump just got rid of, which was the DOJ following up on police precincts that George Floyd and who else was it that were killed in?
It was a lot, bro. George Floyd, Tamir Rice. I could go on and on here, bro.
Yeah. Well, those are no longer being followed up by the DOJ anymore. So to make sure that their training is up to snuff, and that they're following affirmative action protocols.
So I don't like to reduce to body. I'm not pretty. that's always been a reality for me. I'm fine with it. I don't like to reduce to like body attacks, or I like ad hominem attacks on your intelligence, because that's, you know, if you're not smart enough to shut the fuck up, then you bring it on yourself. And it doesn't require X amount of intelligence to be smart enough to shut the fuck up. So, but I don't like to reduce to like body attacks. Like that's not normally my thing. But Pam Bondi, because you brought up the DOJ, and KKK Caroline, the press secretary that you brought up either, both look like somehow during one of the Mandela effect shifts that they're not in a trailer park. Because they both look like they're premium grade double wide candidates.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how it's a Mandela effect thing. If something happened here, like they should be two trailer park girls going around the outside.
Yeah.
How about that?
I mean, MTG should be hitting that glass pipe instead of speaking in the Senate. So
she actually reminds me of a female lesbian gym teacher. Like that's what she screams. Like, I'm not gonna put it out there, but we all had one. So I'm not gonna. At some point, you had one. So I'm not gonna put it out there. I got a name running through my head right now, and I'm pretty sure that she went to the same school as me, the other school, not the one I went to with you when I had to go to the other one after that one wouldn't let me come back. So the school I went to with her, I'm pretty sure she had this gym teacher too, and she was thinking of the same name. But yeah, I think that he's starting to kind of like buck back against the law a little bit, and Timu Grovels is maybe getting to him a little bit, and there's that. And then the last topic of the day, and we're gonna put it out here, and I'm gonna say it in one fucking sentence: cancer isn't political. Stop it.
Yes.
Stop it. Like, even Donald said a nice thing. And now I will end it,
but he did.
He did. And I will say this on the back
expanded on that, but
well, yeah,
but his initial tweet for the first time was not about him. He did not say we don't, even though we don't, like he said, a former president, when who was it that passed away?
Carter,
thank you. He was like, even though we didn't agree politically, like he didn't do any of that. He just said, hey, me and Melania, condolences to the family, and left it at that. That's the only thing we ever ask of you to do.
Right.
So it's really interesting that I had a lot of neutral, like, and I'll say like Piers Morgan is neutral-ish. Like, he's a conservative, but he's not necessarily MAGA. He posted, like, he retweeted and said classy, very classy. That's the fucked up part. Like, yes, I'm glad he did it. I am. But it's really fucked up that we have to be like, holy shit, our president actually did something classy. So we have to notate it.
It'd be easier.
Our presidents are traditionally known to be extremely classy.
Right.
And upstanding. Now we have to like specifically notify. Trump did a good thing today. Trump did like the mainstream media all came out and was like, oh, really nice statement, pleasant statement, classy statement. And I'm like, y'all don't even realize that we have to do this now. And that's how fucked it is.
Yeah. Like, holy shit, he did something nice.
Yeah, but that's my one sentence is cancer isn't political. So stop it. So if he came out, I hate him.
Yeah.
I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I've hated him before he was fucking president. And now I just hate him more. If this was him, I'd feel bad for him.
Right.
And I'd feel bad for his people.
I wouldn't, but I'd still wish him a fast passing.
Right. Okay, fair enough. You can be honest about that, right? But I would, because it's not political. It's the one thing that has haunted humanity since the beginning. Yep. So, and with that, we're going to wrap it up because it's been another fun and exciting week, and maybe we'll have some bills passed next week. Actually passed to where he's going to have signed them. And you could win a chance to get the pen he signs the bill with for only a $3 million donation in Trump coin. Until next week, it's Bluebird on your shoulder. We will see you guys then. Please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and come on and argue with us. It'll be fun.
Comment on the video.
Comment. Yeah, comments below. W's in the chat, guys. I don't know. That's what
Oh boy.
say. All right, we're out of here.
Thank you.